Welcome to the Cognitive Crucible, produced by the Information Professionals Association. Our website is information-professionals.org, where you can find links and information about today's conversation and get access to members-only content. Join John Bicknell and explore all aspects of our generational challenge, cognitive security. The Cognitive Crucible is a forum that presents different perspectives and emerging thought leadership related to the information environment. The opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of or endorsement by the Information Professionals Association.
My guest today on the Cognitive Crucible is Maksym Tereshchenko, who has nearly 24 years of experience in the information technology industry. He has worked his way up to the top building data and AI products. He has worked in a variety of settings, from the grandeur of big corporations to the humble beginnings of startups. But everything changed with Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine. February of 2022 marked a turning point. Driven by the mission to help Ukrainian resistance, Maksym gathered a team of volunteers, setting a mission to make Ukrainian institutions informationally resilient, able to leverage AI to manage physical and informational risks, including identifying Russian influence campaigns and containing narrative warfare. Thus, the story of Mantis Analytics began, and we will get into all of that as we talk with Maksym. And with that, Maksym Tereshchenko, welcome to the Cognitive Crucible.
Yeah, hi John. It's glad to be here and explain more about our experience, our way, our challenges, and so on. So happy to be here.
Yes, and very happy to have you on as well, Maksym. So the conversation I'd like to have with you today will cover how your firm's technology helps protect cognitive security in close to real time. But before we get into this topic and your firm's technology, could we start please by getting your overall assessment of our strategic landscape?
Yeah, first point which I want to mention here is that everybody understands that era of stability is over. We just entered like super turbulent time, and main I think heart of this turbulence is now in Russian-Ukrainian conflict, because it's basically new era of conflict, right? It's the first conflict between really two technological advanced nation, right? And Russia is really powerful in different kind of things, including propaganda. They spend like billions of dollars of yearly basis to spread such kind of propaganda, which attacks Ukraine, Europe, United States, and so on. So now we're definitely in a new era of turbulence, new kind of security risks, right? Let's imagine the fake video, right, and how it's attacked in civilian direction, and also in corporate and so on. So a bit of scary landscape, but a lot of work for us in security space, I think.
Yeah. And by the way, to our audience, we are recording this on the 19th of July, 2024. So if there are any discussion about the war in Ukraine, use that as a mental marker as to where we are currently within that conflict and war. All right, so could you please tell our audience a little bit more about your firm, Mantis Analytics? And first of all, that's a really interesting and cool name. Could you give us the backstory, please?
Yeah, sure. So I will start from some intro, right? What is what is Mantis Analytics and what they're building, and after that, PM to name itself and in story around that. Yeah, so Mantis Analytics, it's a modern AI-powered real-time platform specifically designed to manage risk in the following turbulent environment which can help governments and corporate be more resilient, quickly detect incidents, understand impact. And by incidents, I mean like physical risks and also like informational risks, because we as a company, based on the experiences that we got in Ukraine and Russia conflict, say that informational risks like are equally important as like physical risks in the modern landscape and modern reality. And the main thing is that everything is based on the artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence like hugely like improved like last years, and it's actively used by threat actors, right? New disinformational campaigns like deepfake videos and so on. So such kind of new threats are created by by actors using artificial intelligence. So in this case, we need to use artificial intelligence also against such kind of modern threats. So in this case, our platform is hugely like technological and based on artificial intelligence.
I see. To our audience, again, there's a link in the show notes to the Mantis analytics website so that you can go and check that out yourself. But how did the name Mantis come about? And excuse my silly question, but does Mantis mean like a insect? Like is that what it is? When I think of a mantis, I think of praying mantis. So is there any connection at all with that, or does it mean something very different in Ukraine?
Yeah, it's a very good question because there are like several meanings, and I will start from basically not Ukraine. We will return to the history of Greece.
Okay.
Because in ancient like Greece, Mantis, it was word meaning a deviation practitioner who can like foresee the future. And basically, if you remember, like one of the famous like Mantis from Greece, named Kalkas, and like Kalkas basically received the knowledge from the past, from the present, and also he like had a connection with Apollo, which is basically God, right? And based on this knowledge, he predicted a future specifically for military. So basically, he made like military more effective using such kind of knowledge, which like he received from the different sources. And that's exactly what Mantis analytics do, right? We received a lot of data, and we should answer to three questions, like what happened in past, what's happened now, and what's like probably happened in future. So in this case, we found such kind of, I think, brilliant analogy here. And the second meaning, that's you're absolutely right. It's about insect, about this small creature like mantis. And if you like see it, how it's perfectly designed, right? So it's really, really beautiful. And also, Mantis is a holy animal in a lot of countries, and with a big mission, and not mission like meaning, right? And that's what we also want to do in Mantis, to build not only company, but it's a big mission, the big like goal, and that's we see also some kind of analogy here.
Okay. All right. So multiple meanings.
Multiple, exactly.
Including the insect. Gotcha. Okay. So maybe you could talk just a little bit more about some of the core features of your technology. You know, well, maybe take a step back perhaps and explain a little bit about how your technology works, and then what some of the core features are.
Exactly. So just remind that Mantis Analytics, it's a modern AI-powered real-time risk management platform. And what basically we need just to make it works, right? The first is the first is data gathering, right? So we here like pretty data agnostic, and we collect data from different kind of data sources. But what I want to mention here, based on the experience in Ukraine, Russia, right? That one of the main sources for us, it's Telegram messenger, right? The Telegram messenger is not very popular in the United States, like I know that, but it's like hugely popular in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, in Russia, and so on. And for most of Ukrainians, it's one of the main of source of information. If something is happening, it's appear in Telegram in seconds, right? Comparing with some trusted news and trusted sources. In this case, from data gathering perspective, it's very important to have different kind of sources, like official and non-official and so on, because we need to detect events, incidents as early as possible. And for that, some unverified sources, it's also very helpful. That is our one of our hypotheses, right? The next area, it's basically processing of data, because we recognize that more than 90% of data, basically it's some kind of garbage, right? So we need to filter from the whole stream of data, just 10% of data, which is relevant, right? Which is meaningful, which is like verified and so on. And that we do like on processing stage, that we like process data. We see some correlation between different data sources. We do like evaluation of the trust level of data sources and so on. So a lot of just separation, but main goal, just from this huge stream of data, just take this main part, right? And after that, the most interesting part, it's processing of data with the help of AI and ML analysis. And as I said, AI like changed it like dramatically last years. In this case, most of the things that were like impossible several years ago, now it's comparably like easy to do with the technology. For example, like events verification, detection of narratives, detection of some coordinated disinformational campaigns, detection of propaganda techniques and manipulation, because like, for example, Russia like use like hundreds, I think, of manipulation and propaganda techniques in spreading like news in Ukraine, like and abroad. Also like geolocation of unstructured data, and it's a lot of things we do as AI. And lastly, we need to represent data in a very insightful and actionable way, right? That we can quickly react, because for some incidents in conflict, you need to react in minutes, sometimes in seconds, right? Because it's can cost the life of people, right? In this case, representation of our data, first of all, stream of insights. The second, it's automatically generated like reports using AI. It's also some kind of integration possibility. So it's a general like overview in our technology and platform.
I see. So you mentioned that you use a lot of Telegram data.
Yes.
Is there other data that get brought into your platform as well? So like I'm thinking, for example, like news data, other publicly available data sources.
Absolutely, yeah. So now, first of all, we added like additional social networks, right? Because as I said at the beginning, Telegram in some countries are like popular, some not. So we added like a Facebook, Twitter, and so on. Also, we proceed data from the news streams. And also, we proceed data from the global incident databases. Right now, we're working like with 3 sources. And also, we continuously like increasing the count of the data source that we proceed. We plan to add also some open data about disasters, for example, and so on. So and in some in some projects, as I said, we also use some customer-specific data, for example, data from call centers and so on.
I see. Yeah. Wow. And so all of that, when you put it all together, that helps get that close to real-time examination of things that are happening on the ground, or maybe not on the ground, but in the information environment.
Space. Exactly.
And then those insights get turned into decision make, or get input into decision making, so that companies, the Ukrainian society, the Ukrainian armed forces can make better decisions on, how to stave off, Russian aggression. Could you talk a little bit more about, how all of that works in a little bit more detail?
Absolutely. And here I will split to the two parts, right? Because that's one of the thoughts that we like repeat today, right? That there is like a physical risk and an informational risks. And first, I will start from physical one, right? So we work with the Kyiv City administration to build operational resilience centers. So what does it mean? That idea is just to collect as much sources as possible to monitor like security situation in the city, right? Because you see how crazy situation in Kiev now. For example, last week, right, like the children's hospital was damaged basically with a direct missile rocket, right? It's and also there is electricity outage, there is a outage of public transportation, and so on and so on. So situation is really crazy, and that's why important to quickly like identify all the incidents, report and react for this incident. In this case, so and in response for that, so together with the Kyiv City administration, we built like operational resilience center. We are specifically responsible here to parse social networks and identify some incidents, and after that we realize on the interactive map that some analysts and specialists from Kyiv City administrations and can quickly react to some kind of challenges. So that is an example of monitoring of physical risks. From another perspective, we work with the National Security Defense Council of Ukraine, basically from the first days of the full invasion, to help them monitor Russian informational space, like in about like 70 informational campaigns, right? Because just we need to understand that Russian like informational space, first of all, it's a little bit closed, and also it's a pretty big one, right? And if such kind of tasks should be done manually, it's maybe needed hundreds or thousands of analysts, right? With the help of AI, we just gather this data, we classify it by the any of informational campaigns, and we create a short summary, right, for every informational campaigns, what kind of new narratives is apparent, what kind of reach, and so on and so on. And based on that, analysts then can have like quick overview of the space, just to understand what's happening and which kind of signals they need to react very quickly, right? Because yeah, if you don't react for that, it can be really harmful impact.
I wanted to ask you, what other ways is your technology being used within the current Russo-Ukrainian war, number one, and also if you could talk a little bit more about why the real-time aspect of your technology is important. Like, what are the use cases for, real-time analysis and insights?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like fantastic question. Like first of all, what I recognized, right, that in in the conflict, in like active phase of the conflict, the speed of everything like is increased like exponentially, right? I mean, like speed of informational field, right? Speed of news and so on. In some days, like situation in, for example, in Ukraine, in Kiev, really changed like every like 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
And in this case, yeah, in peaceful time, maybe like for some use cases, it's not like crucially important to have like real-time insights. But if there is some kind of turbulence, conflict, and so on, it's like crucially important. As I say, for example, for like Kiev city administration and so on, if there is some kind of, for example, missile attacks, right? Reaction for that should be immediate, right? Because like people can be like covered like by damaged buildings and so on and so on. So you should like react like very quickly. And also it's about physical risk. But if we take like, if we come back to informational risks, imagine that in the progress of war, like people are really emotionally exhausted, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's much easier to impact them with some, for example, with a deep fake video, right? Or with some kind of disinformation and so on. Because if you like emotionally exhausted, sometimes it's difficult to analyze something logically, right? Because it's like your first reaction is emotion, right? And that's why the same story, I mean, importance of real time is very also very important in case of informational risk. Because if there is some kind of targeted disinformational campaigns about some tentative topics, right? You should like react before it became like viral, right? Because in our like modern world, a lot of things like, and there is a statistic that disinformation has been reposted like more than like in 70% of the case, right? Why? Because it's specifically created to be viral, right? To like spread it like very quickly. In this case, any like disinformation, any like deepfake videos and so on, we should also detect like very quickly, report that to the social networks, provide some counter narratives and so on, and do it like in the first hour, like not tomorrow, not in a week, not in a month, but in like in 1 hour, right?
Well, presumably, Maxim, that 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 second part of what you were just describing, publishing counter narratives within an hour, let's say, of identifying a informational attack. That's not what your platform does, right? Your platform identifies the informational attack so that counter narratives may be published. Do I have that right?
Exactly. So we, as a platform, as a company, we do not do any counter operation and publishing counter narratives and so on. So our main like target is analysis, a quick identification, such kind of alerts and incidents, and do it as much actionable as possible. So we can provide some recommendation to customer how to react, right? But we do not do any counter like operation and actions ourselves.
I see. I see. So, well, so you must have a bit of a interesting perspective on that workflow, if you will, right? So I'm imagining some kind of, operational workflow of a enemy, creates an informational attack campaign. That campaign gets published, or it gets, it begins online via, Telegram and other data sources that you are monitoring. Uh, the Mantis platform identifies the informational attack, does, characterizes it. You do some analysis in order to describe what is happening, and then you pass that off to your customers, who can then take it and do something in order to counter the attack. How has that process evolved over the last couple of years, would you say?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because a lot of things like basically like happened like first time in
Yeah,
history.
right.
Exactly.
Right. No, and I'm not trying to. I'm trying to make this into a little bit of a discussion about um, gaining some lessons learned over the course of this war, and into where we are right now in July of 2024.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like first main insight that everything became like more intelligent, and we need to make a point that our actors like ahead of us, right? Ahead of everything, like in using AIs, like in budgets and so on. Because as I say, like Russia like spend like billions of dollars on yearly, right? On just and they have a huge bot of firms, and everything is automated, a lot of methodology around that and so on, right? And in this case, what I like recognize is it's at the beginning of full invasion, some informational attacks was like pretty, how I would say, pretty simple, right? Pretty clear and so on. But now a lot of like more intelligent stuff, because when you like just take this, for example, text of this harmful narrative and so on, you can just understand that it's specifically like oriented for some target group. So it's specifically oriented to some like pain points in society, right? And it's continuously like updating based on the news and informational field and so on. So in this case, from the side of actors, like threat actors, it's super intelligence work, right? And we can, and in this case, yeah, like some kind of simple technology help it in the beginning of like full invasion, but now we need to make like more intelligence. So in this case, like a first inside this in this workflows, that every stage of this flows that we discussed today should be like more deep, more intelligence, with a deep using of all the modern technologies that we have in the moment and that is available.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you, Maksym, for all of that. I know that this is a very quickly evolving space, but so we've been talking, primarily about the national security use for your technology. But what are some other use cases for your technology? It sounds to me like there are commercial applications that you must be considering as well.
Exactly. So what we recognize it's during like during our work, that needs of the government are pretty same if we compare it with a big global corporation, right? With a like globally distributed infrastructure and critical infrastructure and so on, right? So in this case, like a first use case that we effectively apply our technology is basically automation of work of GSOC, market of the global security operational coordinators, because using our platform, it's like, yeah, we can quickly identify incidents, understand impact on the infrastructure of the company of or any assets like offices, data centers, and so on. And so basically here we want to proceed the all possible like incidents, right, from physical one to informational one, later I think cybersecurity and so on, so to give like pretty broad understanding of the risks that attacks in the of the companies. And also, that's his main use case. But the second, I think, it's a threat intelligence, right? Because we see a lot of like disinformational attacks against corporation, right? We see a lot of protest activities against corporation. We see a lot of deep fakes. For example, I read yesterday that some company like lose like 7, I think, billions of capitalization based on one fake Twitter account, right? Can you imagine that? So in this case, yeah, so I think a lot of correlation between like needs of the government and corporate sector, because yeah, business also under attack now. And also regulatory compliance is pushing. For example, in Europe, a new global resilience directive will be launched this autumn and will affect about 5,000 entities around Europe, just in terms of rethinking approach for incident management, for quick reaction, for effective reaction, and so on. And here I think like technology can help company to be more effective in the following turbulent time.
Right. And along those lines, you are in the middle of moving to the United States. Presumably, this will be helping you explore some additional implementations for your technology.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, I can thank like United States for huge support of
Yeah.
Ukraine, right? And now there are a lot of like initiatives and cooperation and collaboration between our countries. And I think one of the mainstream here is security and cybersecurity and threat intelligence and so on, because yeah, in Ukraine we have a battlefield when we can gather like unique expertise, right? Absolutely unique expertise, like proof methodology, proof technology, and so on. And that's we want to happy to share within the United States, right? To help United States also to be like more resilient, more safe place to live and so on. Because yeah, you see that we do not know how the situation will be developed in future, so we need to be prepared. And I think that's one of the main lessons of the Ukrainian Russian to war. So if you want peace, right, you need to be ready for war, right?
Yep. 100%. Wow. Okay. Well, congratulations on your success so far, Maksym, and definitely wish you and your colleagues the best as you continue to mature your technology and get it integrated into both national security and commercial operations. If we could turn to a couple of closeout questions that I typically ask. So we have a lot of students and researchers who listen to this podcast. Do you think you could offer a research question or two that an interested student might examine if they want to help advance the state of the art in this field?
Yeah, definitely. I think now a lot of like open questions for the students, for researchers, and we as a company like very actively work with students from the whole world basically. And yeah, I want to mention like two very important question. Like first, how to measure basically, right? How to measure impact on some influence campaign or disinformational campaign or specific like dangerous narratives on people behavior. Because as I say, such kind of attacks like became really intelligence, right? It's like specifically oriented to change behavior of the people in the like pretty clear direction, right? And if we like spoke about if we speak about intensive informational field where like tens of such kind of informational campaigns like spreading daily, right? The question, what's the impact, right? How we can measure this impact, right? How we can understand that's because it doesn't matter like what is spreading. It's main meaning how it impact people, right? How it changes their like behavior. And I think it's a really interesting topic to research and so on.
Okay, yeah.
And the second question, so by new NATO doctrine, informational space, it's also space of battlefield, right? And I think it's some kind of like a revolutionary change in general, right? So in this case, we need just to understand the correlation between informational and physical space, right? And I think it's this question also connected to the first one, right? Because with informational impact, you can do a lot of stuff. You can like we can take example in Africa, right? When government was changed, like just with informational impact, without any physical like activities, like generally, right? Yeah. So in this case, we need just to understand the correlation and how informational risks can be like transformed into the physical risks and so on. So I think it's yeah, it's a very important important questions to research. And also I want to mention that we are as a company we are very open to work with the students, with the research centers. Just contact me in case you need like to topic for your diploma or some your scientific work. We have a tons of it.
Excellent, excellent. All right, great stuff. And then finally, Maksym, could you recommend a book or other online resource that a interested listener might check out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so first of all, I will start from a book which really impressed me and inspired me, right? So this book is We Are the Bellingcat by Elliot Higgins. I really like the story of Bellingcat because it's started just from, I would say, from things you love, right? Since you inspired, right? And we started our company also because we just inspired with the mission. We see the importance and so on, and so in some way we want to also be inspired by story from Bellingcat because it's also yeah, it's inspirational story because it's not a usual like business and so on. It's a really mission driven story, and everybody of us as human want to be connected with some big missions and big goals and so on. And I think make a world a safest place, more resilient place is really huge mission which need a lot of humans to be involved. The second book is more like a pragmatical one. It's Justin Crump, like Corporate Security, Intelligence, and Strategic Decision Making. So I'm a IT guy with a background of IT. So for me, this book is really helpful just to understand the current trends of corporate security, how our technology can be effectively applied. What are the pain points in this industry and so on. So it's for me it's basically just a quick and effective understanding of industry. So if somebody has like the same goal, I really can recommend this book.
All right, dynamite. And with that, Maksym Tereshchenko, we wish you and your colleagues Godspeed as you continue engaging in this very important problem space. And with that, Maksym Tereshchenko, thank you so much for being a guest on the Cognitive Crucible.
Yeah, John, thanks you very much. It was a great talk, I think very important. So thank you very much to have me here.
The Cognitive Crucible is the only podcast dedicated to increasing interdisciplinary collaboration between information operations practitioners, scholars, and policymakers. To find out more about the Information Professionals Association, visit us at information-professionals.org. Please support our podcast by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review.